Hey, okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome into another Stop Drinking Expert live feed. It's a little bit short notice because I'll be honest with you, I'm bored out of my brains. We're in serious lockdown territory here. So I was twiddling my thumbs watching Netflix, and I thought, you know what, I'll just jump on and do a live stream and see if I can answer any questions. So I'll be fairly laid back today. I will stay online as long as is needed or as short as is needed. So if you have any questions at all about living a sober life, quitting drinking, whether you have some problems, if you've made the decision to quit drinking and you've hit some obstacles, or if you're still to make that decision, or you have questions about your routine. A lot of people describe their drinking pattern to me and say, is it bad? Do I have a problem? Should I stop? So I can help you with that. Any questions at all, fire them up, and I will do my best to give you a reasonable answer. A couple of things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to give you my guide to some really good books that you can read. And I think, you know, when you start down this journey, getting the correct information, getting good quality information in your head is a big part of the process. And a mistake that a lot of people make when they decide to quit drinking is they just go cold turkey and they don't change anything else. They don't change anything about their life. They don't learn anything new. They don't change their perspective or their viewpoint about alcohol. And as such, they struggle. Hi, Jim. My friend Jim. How are you? Good to see you. Jim, how many boot camps have you been to, Jim? Is it 2 or 3? I can't remember. I think it's 3, isn't it? And Rajat, hi to you as well. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Janice. I just wanted to share this little news story that came up 3 days ago, which is quite shocking. And it's kind of sad, really, that you could predict it happening. But apparently the COVID situation and lockdown has caused the annual death rate to increase quite dramatically. As you know, this is a drug that we don't like to call a drug. I thought it was 3, Jim. 3. Jim here watching now has been to 3 quit drinking boot camps. He's a bit of a legend now. So this is a drug that kills 3 million people every year, and it certainly doesn't need the help of a pandemic to push it even further. But apparently, and it's not just a small increase, but 16% increase in deaths because of alcohol in the UK because of people drinking more during lockdown. And there are so many stories. I'd love to hear what you think of this, by the way. How has it affected you, lockdown? Has it made you drink more or less? Has it made you, if you've quit, are you more tempted to go back? But I hear so many stories of people, you know, they're now working from home, and it started off with a glass of wine with their lunch. And then after a couple of weeks, it became a vodka and tonic at 11 o'clock. And then they were found that they were, you know, opening a bottle of something when they were starting their Zoom calls at 9 in the morning. And if you read this story on the BBC website, it tells the story of a guy who got to the point during lockdown where he was drinking 6 bottles of wine a day, literally because he was trapped in his own bubble with this pandemic. And that's how it goes, isn't it? It's a cycle. And that's why this drug is so devious and deceptive. Bethany's on. Bethany's a superstar. Hi, Bethany. Hope you're well. Hope life in Preston is good. Jurgen, 6 days sober. Good man. Who else we got here? Anthony Joy, been sober 17 months now, but alcohol is everywhere. They're even advertising free delivery now. Yeah, and look, you know, we talk about this at boot camp, the deceptiveness and the narcissistic behavior of the advertising and the marketing behind this drug. The thing is, alcohol commercials are generally either sexy and elegant, or they're fun, depending on who they're aimed at, you know. And certainly, you know, the beer commercials that are aimed at guys, they're generally fun. They're a little bit sexual. They'll imply that if you drink this brand of beer, you can sleep with as many women as you want. You'll have all the friends in the world, and so on and so on. And they all seem fun on the surface, but actually, if you look at them from a psychological point of view and what they're trying to do, it's actually quite nasty. Because what they're doing is they're pulling on our deepest fears and worries. And, you know, with lockdown, they'll be pulling on the loneliness aspect. They'll be playing to what we're not, you know, what we're finding them least comfortable about this whole process. And they'll be suggesting erroneously that their product can help you with that. And they'll do it in a fun and light-hearted way, but the psychological subconscious message is very illicit and very dangerous. Because as we know, there is not one thing that alcohol makes better. Nothing. There's nothing you can describe that alcohol improves. And so it's kind of weird that the alcohol industry is allowed to make these commercials without any filter, without any governing body saying, prove it. Because that doesn't apply to any other product, does it? No other product on planet Earth is allowed to say anything they want and get away with it. And at boot camp, I talk about, imagine if I brought out a brand of car tire and I ran a commercial on the TV saying, use Beck's car tires and you'll never, ever have an accident. I mean, how long before I get sued? Minutes? Until someone dies horrendously in an accident. But the alcohol industry can say anything. They can say, drink our vodka and you're like James Bond, drink our beer and you're more popular, drink our wine and you're more sophisticated. And nothing ever happens. Nobody ever questions it. They never get hauled before a judge to explain or to prove that their brand of wine makes you more attractive to men. It's nonsense, crazy. Mark Keane, I love the sober life. You're doing great work. But what would you say to people who are turning to alcohol because they want to escape the hell that is lockdown? It's a good question. The thing is that alcohol only pretends to offer a solution. And actually, what it does is it just makes every situation more difficult. And it's almost, people say to me, how do I deal with my depression if I don't have alcohol to use? How do I deal with my anxiety? Or, I can't quit now because I'm in a terrible relationship. My husband and I, it's just a disastrous marriage and I'm miserable and I'm lonely. And so I drink to escape the misery. And the truth is, the vast majority of people are drinking to escape some other form of pain. The alcohol is a symptom of the problem rather than being the problem itself. Very few people are drinking because they're such a party animal that they can't do without it. Most people who develop problem drinking are trying to escape some other pain. And lockdown is just another incident that you could point to and say, well, I can't stop now because lockdown's terrible and it's horrible. But the implication in that statement, of course, is that alcohol therefore makes lockdown better. And it doesn't. Any more than, Michael Jackson used to take propranolol, a general anesthetic, to get to sleep at night. But would anyone really say, yeah, that's a good solution? I understand there's a problem and you found a way to deal with it, but it's not really effective at dealing with the problem. And the same is true with alcohol and lockdown. Lockdown doesn't get better when you introduce a highly addictive drug that damages your immune system, steals your energy, and generally makes you depressed. So I think, how do you deal with lockdown without using alcohol? It's almost a bit of a smokescreen, because really, how do you deal with anything without alcohol? Well, you change your mindset, you change your belief structure around what alcohol is actually doing. Let's say hello to a couple of people. Paul Cooper. Lockdown for me gives me an opportunity for more exercise, meditation, reading. Yeah, look at it as an opportunity, not a sentence. It's true. Look, one of the things that you will notice when you quit drinking is you get more time on your hands. You have more life, you're awake more, you're conscious more. And also you have 100% of your brain capacity instead of 70% or 80%. And that sounds like a benefit, and it is, but initially it's a negative, because what are you going to do with all this time? Suddenly the days seem as though they've doubled and you're like, what am I going to do? So you do have to change your life. You have to change your mentality and you have to change your routine. But there are people in your life, I'm sure, that would be delighted if you would just give them a bit more time and attention. I put a video in the members area the other day about how dogs love sober owners, because dogs get walked more. They get attention, they get taken out, they get longer walks. Because when you're a drinker, unless you can do, if somebody suggests doing something, like let's take the dogs into the countryside and go for a big 10-mile walk. As a drinker, you'd say, no. we'll take them to the park and back, and we'll stop at the off license on the way, because everything has to involve alcohol at some point. Now, when you quit drinking, you've got all this time on your hands, suddenly your dogs get walked properly, you're spending quality time with your children, your relationship improves, because instead of there being 3 people in your relationship, your husband or your wife and this drug, this evil clown that lives in your head, now you're focused only on one person, your partner. You're not always thinking about, when can I drink next? So there are people in your life desperate for your attention and desperate to spend time with you because they love you. And stopping drinking gives you more of an opportunity to do that, I think. Jürgen, what kind of supplements do you use to deal with cravings? I mentioned a kind of list of supplements, Jürgen. They're not really to deal with cravings. They're more about establishing, first of all, a kind of balance in your mental state, because there are some things that are disturbed by alcohol, and also your body has kind of got used to alcohol being there. So if you suddenly abruptly remove it, then you're going to feel uncomfortable. And there's certain parts of the brain, certain fats and fatty parts of the brain that are profoundly affected by alcohol. And if you take away the anesthetic, you may become more kind of acutely aware of how you feel. And if you feel a bit down and a bit depressed, then there's a temptation it could pull you back to the anesthetic. So things that I recommend, omega-3. Omega-3 is a fantastic essential fat. And because we've been drinking alcohol for so long, we're depleted on these essential fats. Because if you think about it logically, if you spill some oil on your sofa and you try and wipe it off with water, nothing happens. It just stays there, doesn't it? But if you get some alcohol, you'll take it off, because alcohol is very good at dissolving fat. And it's doing exactly the same thing in your body. All those essential fats and that omega-3 that you need in your brain is getting dissolved and destroyed by the alcohol. So I encourage everyone to add omega-3 into their diet, just because I think it's a miracle product. It's an anti-inflammatory, it's an anti-carcinogenic, great for your joints, especially if you're getting arthritis like me. Curcumin tablets, I think, are amazing. And there's been some research done recently that shows that if you take a high strength, high potency curcumin supplement every day, it has exactly the same effect as Prozac. They did a double-blind test and gave some people curcumin, some people Prozac, and the results were pretty much the same. Of course, you won't hear this promoted, but because unfortunately the medical profession is taught and instructed by the pharmaceutical industry, and drugs that are readily available, or supplements that are readily available, don't make big pharma any money, so they're very rarely promoted. But do your own research, go online, have a look at curcumin for mental health. It's also an anti-carcinogenic, a lot of research showing that it's very good at preventing bowel cancer, things like that. And bearing in mind that alcohol is a proven carcinogenic, and it causes 7 major forms of cancer, it's a very good idea to then start taking something that is proven to reduce your chance of getting cancer. What else? Vitamin D, especially if you live in a country that doesn't get a lot of sunshine, like the United Kingdom. What else? Magnesium is good for sleep. I also talk about 5-HTP in the book, Alcohol Lied to Me. 5-HTP stands for 5-hydroxytryptophan. And it's the kind of precursor to the production of serotonin and melatonin. So it helps you produce those feel-good chemicals. And it also helps you sleep. So they advise that the best time to take 5-HTP is just before bed with a sugary drink, because the sugar accelerates the absorption. Now, there's a huge caveat with 5-HTP. And depending on where you are in the world, you may or may not be able to get it. I know it's banned in Spain. I know it's banned in Ireland. And the reason is that it does interact with several prescription medications, including antidepressants. And it can cause something called serotonin syndrome if you're taking antidepressants. And serotonin syndrome can be fatal. And that's why there's a huge caveat with it. And that's why it's difficult to get. And I'm certainly not encouraging you to take it. I'm just telling you what I took. Now, serotonin syndrome is basically too much serotonin in the brain. And you get that because 5-HTP creates serotonin, and your antidepressant blocks the release of serotonin. So you get kind of a buildup of serotonin in the brain, and then the antidepressant stops it leaving the brain and it overloads. So do some research. And if you're on prescription medication, personally, I would stay away from it. But that's one as well. Dan says vitamin B1 is essential. Absolutely. All drinkers are pretty much deficient in vitamin B1. And if you are a very heavy drinker, it can progress to something called wet brain syndrome, which is it's a kind of an extreme form of vitamin B deficiency, but it presents itself almost like Alzheimer's or some sort of mental disorder, because you're slurring your words, you can't remember anything, you get brain fog, you're very confused all the time. And sometimes you can notice this in elderly people and think, oh my God, they've got, Alzheimer's disease. And if they're a heavy drinker, it might not be that at all. It might be wet brain syndrome. But if you've got wet brain syndrome, taking a tablet that you get from the pharmacy is not going to be enough. It's not strong enough. You're not going to be able to get enough vitamin B to restore the balance. You're going to need to go into hospital and be on a vitamin B drip. So anyway, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to give medical advice, but there you go. Let's have a look who we got here. Hi, Craig. Been listening to your podcast from 2018. Thank you. Still not 100% a non-drinker. The particular podcast that resonated with me was your early gym experience for the first 6 weeks. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's, people get very worked up about quitting drinking because we've got it programmed into our head, and society agrees that quitting drinking is horrible. It's a horrible thing to go through. And it's positioned as this huge challenge. If you tell people you're quitting drinking, you almost get sympathy, like, oh my God, how terrible for you. And I think for that reason, we give alcohol too much power and we make it more of a big deal than it actually is. What Anna's talking about here is how I compare it to going to the gym. When you decide, that's it, I need to go to the gym, I'm so unfit, I need to get back to the gym. The first day you go to the gym is horrible. You hate every single second of it. And then the second day you go to the gym, you hate it, it's horrible, sucks. The third day you go to the gym is horrible, you hate it. And every single second on that treadmill feels like an hour. You can't believe how slowly time is going. And this kind of routine carries on for about 3 weeks, doesn't it? You're like, oh, I've got to go to the gym. Oh, so sick of this. I'm not even losing weight. Oh, it's horrible. You hate it, 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 you hate it. And then one day you wake up and you realize you have to go to the gym. And instead of going, oh, I have to go to the gym, you feel excited about it. You're like, oh, great. Something happened, something changed. And exactly the same thing is true with alcohol. When you go sober, you may be like, I hate this. Can't socialize with my friends. I can't have my nightly glass of wine. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. Until the point when it changes. And you go, I love that I wake up in the morning and I feel full of energy. I love never having a hangover. I love how much better the time I spend with my children is. And suddenly being sober feels amazing. And you forget about that horrible time. So don't give alcohol too much power. It doesn't deserve it. And it's the same as, it's not because alcohol is so amazing. Even people that go vegan go through this. Nobody just decides to go vegan and it's amazing from day one. You miss the things you used to eat. You miss the choice. You miss the variety. You miss being able to shop for clothes without checking the label to make sure there's no animal product in it. You miss all this and it sucks and you hate it and you're starting to think, well, should I go back? Until you get to the point where you fall in love with being a vegan. And then you tell everyone you meet, because that's what vegans do. But it's just the same. If you've got questions, fire them up. I will come back to you. The other thing I just wanted to share with you, I just wanted to show you some books that I think are really good. Obviously, you'll know about mine, which is Alcohol Lied to Me, down here. It's not. I'm not here to plug the book. You can get the book for free if you want. Just go to the website stopdrinkingexpert.com, sign up for the webinar, and you'll get that free. But I just wanted to show you this one that not many people know about, called Unleash from Alcohol. It's not about quitting drinking, really. What it's about is understanding why you drink in the first place. And if you were here at the start of the webinar, I was saying that most people are drinking or problem drinking to escape some other form of pain. So it could be loneliness or depression or anxiety or trauma from childhood or being in a bad relationship. But generally, people are using alcohol as an anesthetic to escape a deeper problem. And my book, Unleashed from Alcohol, that you can get on Amazon, and there is an audiobook as well on Audible, is about understanding what that thing underneath is. Because if you just stop drinking without dealing with the problem that's underneath it, you become what is known as a dry drunk, as in you're sober, but you're miserable. And that's not really a solution, is it? So the idea is you stop drinking and then you address the problem that's underneath it. And that's where this book, Unleashed from Alcohol, steps in. So what other books? Well, Jason Vale, yeah, he's good. He's known as the Juice Master. I think he's this. I don't ever hear him talking about this anymore, but maybe he doesn't promote this. I'm not sure. But he's known as the Juice Master because that's his main kind of revenue stream, I think. And he's all about, living a healthy life by juicing vegetables and things like that. But before he became famous for that, he wrote this book, which is called Kick the Drink. It's got great reviews. It's a long time since I read it, but he's got a very kind of laid back, easy to understand approach about it. It's very good. You should look at that one. Another good author you should check out is Annie Grace. I'm guessing Annie Grace read Alcohol Lied to Me because she quotes from it quite a few times in her book. But she's done very well for herself, and she's done very well getting the message out in America, in the States. And this is a good book. Again, very easy to read, not complicated at all, easy to go through in a very short sitting, very good ratings. This Naked Mind, and especially good if you're a woman as well and you want a kind of female perspective on it. I think my favorite quit drinking book is by William Porter, and it is this one here, Alcohol Explained. He has a really good way of explaining things. He's just written a sequel to it, Alcohol Explained 2, which has just come out, I think, in the last 18 months, something like that. But certainly, and I've not read number 2, but I've read number 1, and he has a very clever way of describing how alcohol gets us. So that's definitely on the list as well. So just some tips there if you're looking for some books to supplement your learning and to add into the arsenal that you have against this nasty little drug. We'll do a quick Q&A. Let's just see what we got. If you have any questions, fire them up. Chris B. Craig, I stopped 1st of January as planned. You planned it last November. Watch a video of yours every day as a motivator. Feel better in myself. Got back into drawing, which I've not done for over 25 years. Great. So many stories like that. I think one of my favorite was a lady from Florida, and she was in her 70s, and she'd had a 20-year problem with alcohol. And she used to be a ballroom dancer. She used to compete. It was basically her life. Her whole passion was dancing. And when she developed the drinking problem, she stopped dancing, as we do. We stop physical activity because all we want to do is sit and drink. And I helped her to stop drinking after 20 years. And I checked in with her a little bit later, and I said, what's been the best thing? And she said, I've started dancing again. This is a woman in her 70s. And she was so full of life, like, I'm dancing again. I'm going out to the dance club, and I'm partaking in it again. I'm even helping teach a little bit. And she was just so thrilled. And just think that had been missing from her life for 20 years because of this drug that supposedly, according to the marketing, makes life easier and better. bullshit. Thank you, Chris, and good luck to you. I just want to stop this morning. I feel horrible. I started Prozac and I don't feel well. How do I stop? Okay. It's a little difficult to answer that because you need to see your doctor, really. I think if you know, I'm not qualified to give medical advice. And just because you're mentioning Prozac, I've got to assume there's some mental health things you're dealing with there as well. So I can't give you a blanket answer. I know that removing alcohol from the equation will make your life easier and better, but in the short term, you may need a little bit of help from your doctor to do that safely. So don't struggle on your own, and don't feel like you're being a nuisance or a pain. Go to your doctor every day if you have to. And because sometimes I found that GPs were quite flippant about this problem. But then, you know, I'm going back over a decade. I remember the first time I went to my doctor, and I've told this story many times. It took me a lot of courage to pluck it up, you know, to pluck up the courage to go and admit that I was worried about my drinking. It wasn't something I did lightly. I didn't want to do it. And I was shaking before I went in. And I sat down with my doctor and he said, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Look, I'm a bit worried about my drinking." He said, "Right, how much are you drinking?" I said, I'm drinking 2 bottles of wine a day. And he said, "Oh, don't worry, you're drinking less than me. Try and cut down a bit." I went, "Oh, okay." And left. Well, try and cut down a bit. "Oh, really? I never thought of that." So be a pain, pester them, make them help you, because a lot of doctors don't quite understand it. So force them to. Lisa, yay, made it to the live chat. I missed the last couple. Yeah, I tend to just do them sporadically. Lisa, I'm just bored today because we have a major lockdown here in Cyprus. We're not even allowed to leave the house without permission from the government. You have to text the government to ask permission to leave the house to go to the bakery or something. It's crazy. We're all doing well. We're just bored out of our brains, Lisa. Thank you. Rhubarb, just a reply to the guy who was messaging about feeling terrible being on Prozac. Rhubarb says you need Prozac because of the alcohol. You need at least 14 days of sobriety to get the result. It's all true, but get your doctor's help. Penny, everything CB states is correct and truly based in science. Longer you are sober, the better life is. True. What is that? I just scrolled past and missed something. It's hard to address the problems underneath when you can't afford therapy. Yeah, look, I'm a bit kind of black and white about this, and my kids tell me that my biggest problem, and my kids are very good at helping me identify my problems. They tell me my biggest problem is the fact that I'm so black and white about stuff. Like, you either want this or you don't. Do it or don't. But don't live in the middle. You know, I'm a bit too binary sometimes. I know that. But look, the reality is there is no external force that can fix you. There is no external person who can make your problems go away. This is you fix yourself, you change yourself, and you are the only person that you can change. And I do appreciate that often you need a little bit of outside help to guide you through the process. But it doesn't mean that if you can't go to a therapist, you're screwed and there's nothing you can do. This, you know, there are countless stories of people who've escaped from extremely dark places using nothing but their own determination and their own resources. You know, I would say that I dramatically changed the direction of my life by listening to an audiobook every day for years. I listened to thousands of them. And I used to do a 3-hour daily commute. And so I would listen to an hour and a half on the way into work, and I would listen to an hour and a half on the way home from work. And I learned so much over 3 years that it completely changed my life. So you've got to invest in yourself. You have to take responsibility, and don't assume there's nothing you can do to heal yourself, because it is possible. It's more difficult, but it is possible. And you can certainly make a start until you get to the point where you can afford a little bit of therapy. Siddharth Kapoor, how to quit beer addiction. The type of alcohol is kind of irrelevant, Siddharth. it's the flavor of drink that you have is just a carrier for the drug, in the same way that cigarettes are a carrier for the nicotine. It's people smoke a brand of cigarette because they claim they like it, and the marketing is designed to say that this brand delivers that. But actually, all cigarettes are just carrier devices, aren't they? They're designed to get the drug into your system, and alcohol is buried in sugar in different flavored drinks. And you'll have a preference, but the drug problem is the drug problem, not the type of drug, not the type of drink. What else we got here? Just looking down my list. Let's have a look. It's an interesting question. Robert Downey, thank you for joining us, Robert. How do you find the motivation to stop drinking when you've already lost everything because of alcohol? Yeah. I wouldn't say I lost everything, but I got to the point with my drinking. It wasn't so much my drinking took me to the bottom. It's just that my life was out of control, and I'd been fired from my job. I was working 300 miles away from my family. I was staying in a 1-bedroom, crappy, damp apartment. I was drinking because the bills kept coming in. I was taking a massive pay cut, and I remember getting to the point where I used to wake up every morning and I would think, shit, I'm still alive. I felt that lost and that broken. And you've got a choice at that point, haven't you? Because if you carry on drinking because alcohol's destroyed your life, you're basically saying, the misery I feel now, I've decided to extend it until the point I die. And do you really want to spend the rest of your life feeling that miserable because you don't want to deal with this problem? You've got to reach the point where you say, enough, I'm changing direction, because it's never too late. It's never too late to change direction. And that lady I was telling you about there, that 70-year-old lady, she quit drinking at 70 years old because she was sick of it. She was sick of being a letdown to her grandchildren and to her family and not doing all the things she loved. And she made a decision at the age of 70 to change direction. And if alcohol really has stolen everything that is important to you, then I encourage you to see alcohol for what it is. This is not something that makes your life easier or better. It's not something that's going to help you in the future. This is a nasty, narcissistic drug that has stolen enough from you. And it's now time to draw a line in the sand and say, no more. You've had all that and you can keep it, but no more. And fall in love with defying this drug. Don't let it take any more from you, because you will, it's easy to look back with regret, and we've all got regrets and we've all made big mistakes in our lives, but there's no point beating yourself up about that, because you can't change it. But what you can do is you can say, I learned a lot of lessons from it. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about other people, and I'm going to take that knowledge and use it in the future, because information is power, and you will be a better person because of what you've learned if you just make that positive decision now to move forward without alcohol in your life. Sonia, can you recommend a group for the over 65s? It's hard to relate to the younger ones sometimes. You mean a group online, Sonia? I don't know any specific age-related groups. Maybe you can have a look on Reddit. There seems to be, lots of forums on Reddit that you can drill down into niches. Maybe you can find a sober, mature sort of group on there. But I don't know any specifically. I tell you what, I'll have a look. And if I find any, I will post them up on my Facebook page. Siddharth, is draft beer equally as bad? Yeah. Yeah, it's all bad. It's, it doesn't matter. Look, there's no good quality or bad quality alcohol. That's nobody's ever gone into hospital with liver failure and the surgeons cut them open and gone, oh, thank God he drank the good stuff. Once it gets inside you, there's no difference between the cheap junk that homeless people drink on the streets and Moët and Chandon or Veuve Clicquot. It's all the active ingredient in alcohol. The drug is the discharge from decaying vegetable matter. When you throw a load of fruit in a bucket and let it rot, the ooze that leaks out is alcohol. It's just filth in a bucket. You can put it in a pretty bottle, you can give it a sexy brand name, but at the end of the day, you're just drinking rot juice. Doesn't matter which brand. Anna, how can I help my husband remove alcohol from, it's cut off there, so I'm guessing from his life. It's a super tough one. It depends if he wants to. If he doesn't want to, then there's pretty much nothing apart from lead by example. Because as I often say, this is a tightrope walk. And your husband can go in front of you or he can walk behind you on the rope, but he can't do it alongside you, because this is a journey we take for ourselves for our own reason. And one of the hardest things I've discovered is answering people who email me saying, my son's about to kill himself with alcohol, or my husband's going to kill himself if he doesn't stop drinking. What can I do? And like I said earlier, the only person you can change is you. I mean, you can stop enabling them. You can have very fixed rules, because they will try and persuade you to make their drinking easier for them. And they will try and pull you back into the loop if you've stopped, because drinkers like safety in numbers, or the perception of safety in numbers. But the most important thing you need to do, Anna, is look after yourself. That is job number one on the list. Protect yourself. Because you've got to understand that your ability to help your husband is restricted by his willingness to cooperate. If he wants help, you can point him in the right direction, but you can't do too much of the work for him, because it dilutes the journey, and he needs to go through this himself. So guide him if he's asking for help, but above all else, protect yourself in this. Oops, screen just jumps around a bit here. If you've just joined us, guys, don't forget, if you're new, if you've just found this, please like and subscribe to the channel and comment below. Let's have a look. Penny says, explain the clown. So, yeah. People think this is a bit schizophrenic, but when people come to a quit drinking boot camp with me, they're generally quite sheepish and nervous, and they feel bad that nobody wants to have to travel to go and see some strange British guy because they can't stop drinking. They feel weak, and they feel like they're a bit pathetic. And one of the first things I say to people is, look, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not a bad person. You may have lied to your family and your friends. You might have let people down badly, but it's not because you're a bad person. It's because this drug's very good at what it does, and it is highly addictive. It's just that we live in this world where our mentality, our kind of collective mentality around this drug is twisted, and we all kind of act like if you can't drink alcohol, a highly addictive substance, and not get addicted, there's something wrong with you. That doesn't make any sense to me. Surely drinking a highly addictive substance repeatedly, the logical conclusion is addiction. So actually, if you come to a quit drinking boot camp with me, or you do my online course, there's nothing wrong with you. You should have ended up there because you were drinking a highly addictive substance. So what I say to people is, you've got to separate yourself from the addiction. You are not the addiction. The addiction is something that kind of you've invited to live in your head. And I describe it as this like evil clown that lives inside your head because you invited him in there, and he's never going to leave. He's always going to live there now because you said he could. Now, I know that sounds depressing. And while you can't get rid of him, you can't evict him. What you can do is you can starve him of oxygen. You can remove all his food, remove all his light, remove all his air, and you make him miserable and weak and pathetic until he's this tiny little thing in your head. And as long as he's weak and he's pathetic, he can't do much to you. But if you give him oxygen, if you give him alcohol, he's got power. And the thing about living in your head is he knows everything about you. He knows all your motivations. He knows what you're afraid of. He knows your deepest, darkest fears. He knows all your secrets. He knows what you love to do, what you hate to do. He knows how to pull your strings in a very unique way. And that's why you have a justification for drinking. Nobody drinks without being able to explain it. I used to drink every night after work because I would say it's how I relax, or it's how I get to sleep. If I can't have a drink after work, how am I going to relax? How am I going to get to sleep? It's just, you have to, if you're going to do something insane, like drink diluted poison on a daily basis, you need some plausible deniability. You wouldn't just sit at home stabbing yourself in the leg repeatedly, would you? If you're going to do something insane, you need to be able to justify it to yourself. And so that's why we come up with these reasons. And the clown knows all these. And he plays you like a fiddle. So that's the clown. Yeah, a few people with you, Sonia, here. I'm 16, need to talk to more mature people. It's true. Your view of life changes as you get older, and your points of reference change. And I will have a look around, but I would start with Reddit. And I know there are definitely sobriety and quit drinking groups on Reddit. You can maybe ask those people if they know anywhere. At the moment, I don't know, but I will look into it. Paul, everything you're saying is giving me total clarity. Thank you. You're very welcome, Paul. Craig, do you have a favorite band? Just curious. You know what? I have a terrible taste in music. But I mean, when I say terrible, I like it, but it doesn't really fit the mold. I like a bit of everything. And I love when I do my boot camps in Nashville because I love country music. So don't ask me, because the chances are whatever I answer, I'm just going to lose all my street cred. And I didn't have much to begin with. So I don't really have a favorite, but it's not good, Ryan. You wouldn't be impressed. I doubt it. John Rowan, my biggest problem is abstaining for a month or 2 or 3 months, but the horrid memories of drinking begin to fade. So I end up at square one again. Yeah. I think I know what you're saying. So you get into a miserable place. You wake up and you say, oh, I'm never drinking again. I hate it. You do something terrible or something like that, and you go sober. And then after a month, that horrible thing that made you stop drinking doesn't seem so bad anymore. You know it's bad, but it's not hurting you. You don't feel the emotion attached to it. And then you go another month, and that thing that you stopped drinking for now is a distant memory. And you look back and you forgive yourself. You go, oh, well, I was a bit silly. Shouldn't have done that. And your leverage for stopping drinking has disappeared. Am I right? Is that what you're saying? And that is why willpower doesn't work. Because when you stop drinking using only one tool, as in the leverage of pain, when you get sufficiently away from that pain point, then you have no leverage anymore. So you become weak, and you still have this belief structure that alcohol is a benefit. So you've got away from the pain, but you haven't dealt with this incorrect programming in your head. And that's why in the course I talk about you've got to get, this is a complete package. You've got to get massive amounts of pain on where you are and where you're going to go if you carry on in this journey as a drinker. And you need to have massive amounts of pleasure of where you're going to end up if you quit drinking. At boot camp, I tell people, look, think about your life in 5 years' time from now. In scenario 1, you carried on drinking, but it got worse, because that is the nature of the drug. It always gets worse. What does your life look like in 5 years' time? Then I ask people to look 5 years in the future and say, but this is 5 years after you quit drinking. What's changed? How does your relationship look? What's your financial situation? What do your kids think about you? Get massive pleasure. So you've got those two things. And then in the middle, you need to change what alcohol means to you in your head. Not just what you think, but what you believe. Because as long as you believe that alcohol is a benefit, as long as you don't drink, you're going to feel like you're missing out on something. And if you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I always make a very strange comparison. You know, if you're drinking alcohol to get a buzz, then use heroin. It's better. And people think, well, that's outrageous, Craig. How dare you suggest people start using heroin? I'm not. I'm just saying that you don't use heroin because you understand and you believe that adding heroin into your life would be a profoundly bad decision. And you're right. The reason you use alcohol is because you believe that it's a benefit to you, and you're wrong. So all this is a case of bad programming. You have a bad program in your head, so you got to get rid of it. And if you don't get rid of it and you just stop, you're always going to be struggling. I hope that helps, John. For me, the worst part is I don't sleep properly. I gain weight when I'm drinking. I have some tingling and numbing in my legs and feet. It's scary, but I still drink. Yeah. Well, you know, alcohol causes nerve damage. So you should go and see your doctor about that. Now, perhaps you're not going to see your doctor about it because you're afraid he'll tell you to stop drinking. And I understand that because I did that for about, 3 or 4 months. I had a pain in my flank, in my right flank, about where my liver is. And I ignored it for about 3 or 4 months until I couldn't ignore it anymore. And the reason I ignored it is not that I wasn't worried about it, because I was terrified, especially when I started to Google it. And you know what happens when you Google your ailments? You get cancer immediately, don't you? It's always cancer. Even if you cut your toenail wrong, it's cancer of the toe. So I was terrified, but I didn't go to the doctor because I was worried that he would tell me to stop drinking. How insane is that? You know, worried that I'm going to die because of this pain in my back, but I don't want to stop drinking. You gotta make a decision which way you're going to go. You're going to deal with this or not. Oh wow, woke. I remember you woke. Yeah, yeah. You were on, weren't you? Saying you were just about to go into rehab the next day. Has it been that long? Hello, I was on your channel before entering rehab and I was asking for advice. I finished last Monday, been sober for 27 days. Excellent. And how do you feel? Do you feel strong? Do you feel like you can sustain this? That's well done, though. Fantastic. Gary, my motivation for stopping is physical health. I took it for granted for too many years. We do that, though, don't we? You know, I'm 47 this year. I've got aches and pains in places I never thought existed. You do take it for granted, but good you've made that decision, Gary. Opinion about Eastern Europe, Russian Baltic states versus Western Europe drinking habits. I don't think you can split it east-west. It's you know, because it's not uniform. You know, it's like there's parts of the Western world where alcohol is completely ingrained in society, and there are places where it's not so much. It's like go to Ireland, and the fact the least attended boot camp I ever did was in Dublin, and my ex-wife was Irish, and you know, I have friends in Ireland. I know that alcohol is very much ingrained in society. And I think that's the case in parts of Eastern Europe. You know, the vodka mentality in Russia and things like that. And there's some scary stats about the number of sick days on a Monday in Russia because everyone's on the vodka. But I don't think you can separate it by region, and it's kind of pointless anyway, because it doesn't really matter. This is an individual thing. It's like it doesn't matter if you're miserable in a country full of drinkers, or if you're miserable in a country full of sparsely populated drinkers. This is about how you feel. Other people, it doesn't matter to you. This is a journey you take for yourself. Siddharth, how do you deal with FOMO when quitting alcohol? How do you deal with the fear of missing out? It depends. Your life has to change. Like, here's the harsh reality. I wish I had like one line I could say and just say everything gets better, don't worry about it. It doesn't initially. You know, you have to change your life. You can't take alcohol out and then assume that everything else will continue as it was. You know, if your routine was drinking with the boys on a Friday night in the bar, going to play snooker on a Saturday, having a family barbecue and friends over for drinks on a Sunday, to assume that you take alcohol out of that and then carry on, doing everything else, going to the bar but not drinking, going to play pool but not drinking, having the family party but not drinking, it's going to feel weird and it's going to feel uncomfortable because you've removed a significant aspect of why you were doing it. And predominantly, you're probably lying to yourself for many, many years anyway as to why you were doing those things. I go to the bar to play pool because I like playing pool. No, you don't. You go to drink alcohol. I have 2,000 friends on Facebook and they all think I'm amazing. No, they don't. Most of them don't care. Most of them were just drinking the same drug as you. And so when you stop drinking, things that you used to enjoy doing, a lot of them are not quite as fun anymore. But that doesn't mean you have to go back to the drinking. It just means you have to change those things that are not fun anymore. It's like, for me, if someone asks me to go to a birthday party in a bar, I'm not going to be there at 2 a.m. I'm probably going to be going to bed 10:30, 11 o'clock, something like that, and I'll sneak away. And that's fine with me because I know that once I get to like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, everyone I'm with is going to start talking nonsense anyway because they'll be drunk. And they tell the same story 5 times in a row and it gets a bit boring after a while. So parties change, but you've just got to replace those things in your life with other things you like doing. Excuse me. There'll be things that you used to do when you were younger that didn't involve alcohol that you used to love doing. Painting, drawing, dancing, photography, something, learn a language, go to night school, learn a skill, do something around the house, do that DIY project you've always wanted, but do something productive with your time and enjoy it. Brad, why are you so critical of AA? Why? Does it work for you, Brad? Are you a fan of AA? I'm not. Look, AA is a marvelous organization. It's helped millions of people. And long may it continue. I'm critical of the premise that AA is the only way. I'm not really critical of AA. I'm critical of the blanket insistence of some AA members that it is the only way to stop drinking. Because when you do that, when you say there is no other way and everything else is a scam, then someone who's worried about their drinking goes to AA and fails, they feel hopeless. They feel like, well, I've tried the only thing that works and it didn't work for me. That's it. I'm screwed. And I think that does more harm than it does good. It's not true that AA is the only way to stop drinking. It is not true that my way is the only way to stop drinking. For some people it is, for some people it isn't. The other thing about AA is it's not really designed for people like me. It's not designed for problem drinkers. It's designed for alcoholics. And there's a difference. Problem drinkers are psychologically addicted because they're using it to escape pain. And alcoholics are physically addicted. Their body has become accustomed to alcohol being there and it can't cope without it anymore. Now, when you go to AA, kind of step one is to accept that label. They stamp you on the head, go, there you go, you're an alcoholic, and you always will be. Even if you stop drinking, you can't call yourself sober. You'll have to call yourself a recovering alcoholic. And it's hard. The only way you can continue in AA is to say, okay, I accept that label. I'm an alcoholic, even if you don't believe it. And then you're already lying to yourself. So how do you continue in the process when you're already lying to yourself because you don't think you are an alcoholic? And as I've said many times before, when I was drinking, I was still holding down a very good job. I was the director of 2 multi-million-pound companies. I was the patron of a children's charity. I had a wife and 2 children and a nice car on the drive. I had success in my life. I could point to it and say, success, success, success. And then I went to AA and they said, you're a terrible, broken person, you're weak-willed, and you're an alcoholic, and there's something wrong with you, and you'll always have something wrong with you. And I thought, I don't want to accept that. I don't want to take the blame for this. And so it didn't work for me. Also, there's the religious aspect to it. Anyway, yeah. Don't poke me with sticks and make me do things because you'll get me started on a rant. But thank you for the question. Gary, I wrote a lot of great love poems about booze over the years, but it's clear from reading them that it's an abusive relationship. Yeah. Woke says AA is good, but it's not the only way. Yeah, look, some people, I think some people get really passionate about it because it saved their life. And I get that. You would be grateful and passionate about it, but don't force your views on other people. Don't force it, because you're just going to make them feel bad about themselves when it doesn't work as well for them as it did for you. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, and Woke says there are different AA meetings. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. It's true. It depends on which group you're in and which leader you've got. Helen, I read your book, The Evil Clown. Fantastic. 13 months sober. Fantastic. Keep going. I think we're going to wrap up in a minute, guys. How long have I done? Oh, we're just nudging an hour, so that's enough of me wittering on. I'll just have a little scan and see if I missed anything. I like that. Sonia said she doesn't have an evil clown that lives in her head. She has a wicked witch, and she's asleep now. Good. Ed, not a hangover in sight. Brilliant. A lot less stressful, sure. Yeah, fantastic. Just seeing if I've missed anything here. Okay, I think I got everything. Look, we'll do another one of these again soon. So if you think of any questions that I've not dealt with, then hold on to them, and we'll do one again very soon. And if there's anything urgent, just drop me an email and I'll do my best to answer it. Okay. If you are new to the channel, if you've just stumbled across this, please help me out by liking and subscribing to the channel. I guarantee you, I'll never ask you to smash up the likes. I hate when YouTubers do that. Smash up the like button. What does that even mean? It's not even English. So just click the like button. That would help me out. And share this. And we'll speak very soon. So thank you very much for being with me today. And I'll